Welcome to Operation Vagabond Falcon Part 9. This is the one where the engine comes out. About 5 years ago, I remember watching Mighty Car Mods and thinking, man, they get the life. That is perfect. They just get to work on cars and be around cars all day. Man, if only I could do that. And without really realizing it, a few days ago, I looked around and the same thing had happened to me. Or maybe I made it happen. Or maybe you made it happen. And here we are. Anyway, we really miss the whole jack up your car in your garage thing. We skipped right to a professional mechanic shop and have a 2-post lift. So this is the 144 cubic inch Ford straight six, that's 2.4 liters, with a single barrel Holly carb making, when they advertised this, they said 80 horsepower. This thing's probably making 50. Right, because back then they didn't even have water pumps on them back in the day when they rated the horsepower. They were probably advancing the timing too back then. Anyway, antifreeze comes out and oil comes out. And the copper radiator comes out with 3 of the 4 bolts are in there. And the alternator / generator, or you should really call it the alternator generator. It's the old style way. Friggin' V-belt. That thing comes out quick. In fact, all this comes out quick. This is easy. I'm not cramped at all with this motor. The vacuum line comes off carburetor. Really, all I'm doing is disconnecting anything that attaches the motor to the car. Bruce's dad called dibs on the distributor and the coil and the water pump and the fuel pump. No, wait, he didn't want the water pump, just the fuel pump. There is a lot of engine bay and not a lot of engine. I was listening to the automation guys on the Smoking Tire podcast, and they were saying how this straight six, while we pretty much ditched it by the time 1970 rolled around, for the Australian market, it continued, as the Falcon did. And Ford of Australia continued developing straight six engines until they got double cams and turbos and everything else. Whereas we went to the 302 and developed that from 1963 to 1993. Don't need this emergency brake cable, off it comes. Bruce wraps a chain around the engine and jacks it up just a little bit so you can remove the engine mounts. Then Bruce goes under the car and starts loosening the transmission mount. He tells me to go get a mini jack and put it underneath the transmission, and then we're slowly lowering the car. No, wait, we raised the car, jacked the transmission up, and slowly lowered it back down with the transmission mount off. See, what we're doing here is we're not pulling the engine out of the car. We're pulling the car off the engine. That's what you do when you have a 2-post lift. Hey, it's a good thing to do it that way because you're not going to nick any paint. Nick any paint. The engine is nicely balanced on 2 jacks. The cherry picker is removed. We make sure everything clears, slowly raising the car up, and once we see everything's balanced, everything's good, okay, nobody touch anything, and the car goes up, and the engine stays put, as does the transmission. The cherry picker goes back on the engine. I lift up the end of the transmission, just sort of hold it there, and we lower the whole thing down on the ground. Not like we're saving this thing. It can go on the floor. Just gotta mop up some of the ATF that's coming out of the back of the transmission. After this had been filmed, we gave this motor to a fan who was kind enough to drive down with his Dodge Dakota and come pick it up. He has plans for the engine. There could be a turbocharger in its future. It could go on a boat. He thinks the most likely thing is going to happen is this is going to go into some sort of dune buggy contraption, or a boat, or a dune buggy. When I know, I'll post a link and we can see what's going to happen with the Vagabond Falcon's original 144. Nothing in that engine bay now. Definitely going to have to widen this transmission tunnel here. It only had to house that Ford-O-Matic 2-speed. Look at that dinky rear end. We already have the 8.8 that's going to replace it. Now, the car is real light now. The next day. That's a little fuel pump running away on the floor, sucking all the gasoline out of the tank. I'm snapping the brake lines that go to the single non-powered master cylinder. This thing is about as sophisticated as the master cylinder that sits on your motorcycle handlebar, and it has about the same amount of brake fluid in it. That was expected to stop cars. Anyway, here's under the dash. What you see there is an aftermarket head unit, but it's aftermarket for the late 90s. It was expected that you would wire this thing up to one of those CD changers that you would put in the trunk. It's neat that it says Ford on it, but it's old, it doesn't get very loud, and I bought a retro sound head unit that's going to go in it. It's going to be a lot smaller, it's going to have better sound, and I'm not going to run rear speakers. I got a composite speaker that's going to fit up front. It's going to have good sound and an aux jack, and really that's all I need. The next day. Why mess around inside of the car if you have to deal with the bench seat? It comes out with 4 bolts, and the bolts look weird. I've never seen these kind before. It's like they have a pivoting washer, a spinning washer on the end of those nuts. Weird. And there's only 4 holding it in. It's going to be interesting. I want lap belts in here to give some form of safety, and I don't know where I'm going to bolt them to. I guess I can bolt one to those bolts, but maybe I'll have to drill a hole and put a big washer in. Who knows? This bench seat is really light. Why? It doesn't even recline. Slides back and forth though, doesn't recline. I get some cardboard under there, wiggle that thing out of there, put it in the back of Sally. I gotta find someone who can repair the springs in it. That cloth cover that was put on it is quite nice. There's nothing wrong with that, but the springs inside are crushed. They're crushed on the left butt cheek side of the driver's area of the seat, because everybody just, 56 years of people sliding out of this thing, crush those things like a dorm room cot. So I need to find someone who knows how to repair old classic car bench seats. Nothing fancy about this partial shelf in the back where those dumb Jensen speakers sit. It's just cardboard. I bought another one from falconparts.com. All it is cardboard, spray, paint it, whatever color you want, in it goes. That was as sophisticated as they were in the 60s, and there's no more sophisticated now. That's all these things are. Underneath the dash again, now that the head unit is out, I can easily get to the vacuum-operated motor that runs the wipers. Vacuum-operated. I think Falcon Parts sells a conversion unit that will convert it to electric that bolts right in there. It's probably kind of expensive, but when it comes to retrofitting old wipers, you kind of have to pay what they're asking. The carpet is only held in by the kick plates. That's it. Not even really glued down on the bottom. I guess it is. But those kick plates on the side do most of the pinching that holds the carpet in place. There's also little grommets over by the doors. And also these little panels by the footwell. Yeah, cardboard holds them in place. With all that out, I can pull the carpet back and we can start figuring out a plan to either expand or cut out this transmission tunnel to get a bigger tranny hump. Yeah, I know. So we can get the AOD 4-speed mocked up in there. Next time on Operation Vagabond Falcon.